A powerful magnitude 6.7 earthquake struck near Palu on Indonesia's island of Sulawesi this morning, June 16th at 10:27 local time. The epicenter was inland, about 42 to 46 kilometers east-southeast of the city, at a shallow depth of only 10 kilometers. There was no tsunami warning, but in Palu that did not stop people from running. The footage is striking. Residents flooding into open ground. Hospital patients wheeled outside, some with IV drips still attached. Roofs partially collapsed, walls shattered, debris in the streets. Shaking that lasted more than a minute. The tsunami did not come. But Palu's fear came back immediately. A city of 400,000 people. The Indonesian agency BMKG first reported it as 6.8, then revised it to 6. 7 within minutes. The United States Geological Survey estimated more than 3 million people felt the shaking. Then the aftershocks began. Magnitude 5.2, magnitude 5.0, magnitude 4.9. No confirmed deaths in the first hours, but scattered damage across Palu and the neighboring district of Sigi. It is no longer a question of whether the earthquake was strong. The city already answered by running. This was a shallow earthquake, on land, close to a population that knows what shallow shaking can do. BMKG said there is no tsunami potential because the epicenter was on land. The warning worked exactly as designed. And people still moved toward higher ground. But here is the detail that tells the real story. BMKG has monitored Indonesia's seismic activity for decades. They have a national network of seismographs. They have a tsunami warning protocol rebuilt after the disasters of the past. They have the authority to issue or cancel a tsunami alert within minutes. And within minutes of this earthquake, they issued their finding: there is no tsunami potential because the epicenter is on land. The patient moved into the open air with the IV line still in their arm. The family that ran from their home and did not stop at the door, they kept going, away from the coast. And the survivor of 2018 who felt the first seconds of shaking and already knew exactly where to run. The ground shook for seconds. The memory lasted years. This is how it happened. The ground beneath central Sulawesi ruptured. The energy did not come from far offshore. It came from inland near the district of Sigi with a depth of only 10 kilometers. In Palu, it was strong enough to crack walls and bring down sections of roof. In Sigi, closer to the epicenter, the ground moved harder, reaching surrounding districts. BMKG issued its assessment quickly: a shallow tectonic earthquake caused by active fault movement. A deep earthquake releases its energy far below the surface, and by the time it travels up through kilometers of rock, it weakens. A shallow earthquake does the opposite. 10 kilometers is close. The energy arrives at the surface with less distance to lose its strength, directly beneath the homes, the roads, and the hospitals where people live. It is why a magnitude 6.7 at 10 kilometers can shake harder than a larger earthquake buried deep. The problem was not only the magnitude, it was how close the rupture was to the surface. That is why the shaking in Palu lasted more than a minute. To understand why, you have to understand what this city carries. In 2018, Palu felt the ground shake, and then the sea came, crossing Palu Bay in minutes, faster than any warning could reach the people on the shore. For a city that lived through that, a no-tsunami message competes with a memory that arrives faster than any official word. BMKG said no tsunami. But Palu remembered the last time the ground moved. The agency knew this too. It asked people not to panic, and not to trust the rumors already spreading online, videos of Palu Bay claiming the water was behaving strangely. BMKG moved to shut that fear down before it outran the facts. But the clearest sign of how strong this was came from the hospitals. Hospitals are built to be the safe place, the building you are brought to, not evacuated from. So when staff began wheeling patients out into open courtyards, some still connected to IV drips, it told you everything about the shaking, strong enough that the safest move was to get the most vulnerable people out from under the roof. When hospital patients are moved into the open air, the earthquake has already entered the recovery phase. And there is one word more than any other that explains Palu's fear: liquefaction. In 2018, the shaking turned solid ground into something closer to liquid. Whole neighborhoods sank and slid as the soil lost its strength. It is one of the most terrifying things an earthquake can do, and Palu has watched it happen to its own streets. That did not happen today. There is no confirmation of liquefaction in this earthquake. But the word lives here now, part of what people feel in the first seconds of any strong shaking in Palu, the question of whether the ground itself will hold. Unlike an offshore megathrust, this rupture was on land, and it brought no wave. Unlike a deep earthquake, this one was shallow, and the energy reached the surface fast. Unlike 2018, this did not bring a tsunami or swallow a neighborhood, but it brought back the memory of the year that did. Here is what is not making most headlines. The mainshock was not the end of the shaking. It was the start of a sequence. After a magnitude 6.7, aftershocks can continue for days or weeks. The strongest so far measured 5.2, followed by a 5.0 and a 4.9. Each one is arriving on top of structures the first quake already damaged, and on top of a population already standing outside. Aftershocks do not need to be larger than the main quake. They only need to hit what the first quake weakened. This is why the damage picture is still developing. Early reports show scattered structural damage, cracked roofs, broken walls, debris in the streets of Palu. But the full assessment takes time, especially in remote areas where roads, older buildings, and slopes may have been affected. There is no confirmed casualty count in these first hours. That number, whatever it turns out to be, is not yet known, and it should not be guessed. And there is the question underneath all of it. Why here again, central Sulawesi sits in one of the most seismically active regions in Indonesia, cut by major active fault systems, the same kind of structures that drove the catastrophe of 2018. BMKG described today's earthquake as shallow and tectonic, caused by active fault movement. It has not pinned the rupture to one specific named fault, and neither will we. But the larger truth does not depend on the name. In Palu, the danger is not only offshore. The land itself is cut by active structures. And it is not over yet. In 2018, a magnitude 7.5 earthquake struck this same region. It was followed by a tsunami that swept through Palu Bay and by liquefaction that swallowed entire neighborhoods. More than 4,000 people died, within the memory of the people who ran today. This was not 2018 again. But it happened in a city that still lives with 2018. Today's earthquake was smaller. It struck on land. It triggered no tsunami. It is not a repeat of that catastrophe. But the aftershocks are still coming. The hospitals are still treating patients in the open air. The residents are still keeping their distance from the coast. And BMKG is still assessing what the shaking left behind. What we know is this. A shallow magnitude 6.7 earthquake struck inland near Palu on June 16. BMKG confirmed no tsunami potential. Strong shaking hit Palu and Sigi. Hospitals evacuated patients. Aftershocks followed, the strongest near magnitude 5.2. What we do not know yet is the final count of damaged buildings. Whether there are casualties. The full aftershock sequence still to come. How badly the rural roads, schools, and older buildings held. The question is not whether a tsunami is coming. It is not. The question is not whether this is 2018 returning. It is not. The question is what a city does with a fear that outlives the shaking, when the safest instinct it has was written by the worst day it ever survived. The tsunami did not come today, but in Palu, the earthquake was enough to bring the disaster memory back to the surface. If this story is worth telling, subscribe. We cover more of these every week.